Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Nadex Morning Analysis. My name is Todd Rich. I'm with Nadex. With me, I've got Brian Caprice and Jen
Yep, she's
from
back.
our special
She's
guest
back
speaker is
today.
Beck from Keep Trading Simple. Let me do. What am I looking for? This is what I'm looking for. I apologize. I do have to share this disclaimer because these sessions are all sponsored by our compliance department. Trading involves risk. It may not be appropriate for everyone. All trading decisions are solely your responsibility and at your own risk. And this is an educational session. Please do not construe anything Brian or I say as a buy or sell recommendation. We are doing this for your education purposes. So I think today the story continues. The two things are Brexit and the stimulus.
Yep.
So let's talk about Brexit first.
Sure. Yeah. So there's been a couple different highlights or kind of new updates in Brexit. Obviously, no deal yet. We would have seen major movement for that one. But scrolling into, again, different news sources, you're seeing that the EU kind of delegates are saying that there could be a deal possible by Friday. We're hearing a lot of kind of positive things coming out of the EU this time instead of the UK. Typically, all the positive kind of talks about, I don't know, getting a deal done and things have been more the UK side. Now it's kind of switching over. But there's also been a deadline thrown down, but this time by the EU. And it came out about an hour ago that European Parliament announced that if their treaty is not done by Sunday, they're not getting one done. It's not going to get put in for this year. So it's kind of a new deadline thrown down, but this time by the other side. So, everything else seems to be pretty positive, as far as Brexit goes. And again, they're saying potential by Friday seems to be again, I guess they don't want to work into the weekend or not, but that's what's causing most of the movement thus far with the pound today.
All right, so yeah, with the it is rather interesting. I'm just going to look over here on the Nadex platform. Here, I'll pop this up for 1 second. It did come down.
Yeah, that's something that we talked about yesterday.
We talked about that 90 level where buyers step in. In fact, I'm just going to go ahead and back this up. I mean, that's been back for a while. So we are bouncing off it a little bit. Clearly, news is kind of getting better. I mean, we've seen it come off its highs where everything looked like it was nothing was ever going to happen. In fact, you know what I'm going to do real quickly here? Just to give some people, I'm going to click on Fibonacci retracement. I'm going to start up in the upper left-hand corner where we had our highs. The trend has been down. Things have been encouraging. I'm going to drag this over. If you wanted to try to play this as it stays, as it bounces around and is range bound until the news comes out, we've got some time. But we're seeing that 23.6 level kind of interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of sellers up in the 23.6. So I wouldn't be surprised that now that the news is out, kind of saying, okay, well, deal's not done yet. There's still a couple more days to go before that Friday kind of peak. Again, if price rallies back up into that kind of 90, 40-ish, 90, 50-ish area, again, this would be, if you're a believer, that there will be a deal done by Friday. If price pushes up and a deal is done, this should shoot right back to the downside again rather quickly as the pound would gain strength from that. So again, it's kind of a pullback into a 23.6 retracement, and then it would be a short position there going obviously later into the week.
So with that, I'm actually brought up the binary options, and right, if you thought this was going to continue to roll a little higher, we'll see what happens when the U.S. equity markets open and the U.S. retail traders start going. There are some binary options that could be interesting, and then up here at this 90-40 level, which we had tagged earlier, there, if you saw, we were looking for a rollover up there.
Yeah, I mean, it's an area where sellers have stepped in multiple times as it's pushed back up there. Like I said, there's a couple different psychological factors. I mean, obviously 90-40, it's very close to that 90-50 area. You can see that, again, support and resistance traders, there's a couple of small traps up there pretty quickly as it breaks higher. And then also, obviously, for very technical Fibonacci traders, being a retracement level is also kind of another one of those things where you're kind of stacking all the odds,
Yep. Okay. So great. That's a little bit on Brexit, something for us to keep an eye on.
Yep.
The stimulus talks seem to be moving along pretty well. So we're actually seeing a little bit of a rally in
Yeah,
oil
and
and
there's a
gold.
couple different factors that are involved with that. So today, obviously, we had news. We had the Philly Fed Manufacturing Index. We had unemployment claims. All week, I've been mentioning, hey, what happens if this unemployment claims number is even higher? That was just kind of catalyst, kind of gasoline on the fire for additional stimulus. Well, the news this morning, the forecast was 817,000, and the unemployment claims came in at 885, meaning more first-time people are putting claims in. Not
Right.
necessarily a good side for the job situation. And again, that's kind of one of those factors of, listen, we need to get stimulus done. More people are now filing for unemployment. And what's going to happen with it? Because right now there's no additional there's no additional kind of government help in there. Now, the most recent that I saw, actually, a little while ago, we're talking about a $900 billion package, as well as, the FOMC yesterday, the Fed Reserve basically gave an improved GDP outlook. So these are all positive factors for the overall indices. So it's kind of one of those things. There's a need to get stimulus done because people are unemployed. The GDP looks better, so it's not the end of the world, which is also good. We're expecting, the FDA is looking at Moderna today. This is when they're, and again, it could be, I mean, at this point, if it's no different than Pfizer's vaccine, there's no reason why it wouldn't be approved today or at the latest tomorrow. So there's a bunch of different factors that are all kind of leading me to believe that the overall markets will, again, today or tomorrow, be pushing higher because of stimulus being passed, better GDP. And again, even though it's a negative number, it's just more need for us to get stimulus out to people. And again, stimulus people will spend that will only help GDP in the longer run. And then obviously coupled with Moderna.
Right. So definitely some encouraging news. Nice to see. Let me just bring up the oil chart. I mean, definitely a supply demand driven commodity, and if we see the economy recovering, or at least, I'm sorry, if we see the stimulus coming, more money into the economy, it'll potentially drive demand. So you're seeing oil drift higher. There's ways to play that. You can take a look at some of these. It's this knockout. It's a little far into the range. Let's just take a quick peek over into the call spreads on oil and see if
And
there's.
yesterday, oil inventory was actually a larger down draw than expected. It was expected to come in at minus 2.8 million. It came in at minus 3.1. The initial reaction was a spike down in the market, kind of people trying to time the news correctly. But then the overall move was actually an up in oil, as they're absorbing that. But again, better GDP is always a great number. And again, more money, like you mentioned, is another reason. And it actually just came back and bounced off of that 4780 level that we'd been talking about. We mentioned that, levels are typically good for maybe 3 hits, but 4 tends to be the breaker, and that's exactly what happened. Number 4 came up, it based sideways in the level before punching higher, went up to that daily level up at 4830. I don't know, 4840 is kind of where we had the level drawn, and we've rolled back down and kind of bounced off that 4780. So, we'll see.
We'll see. And again, binary options, great way to play that. There's some call spreads that could be interesting as well. If you thought oil, we're going to continue to drift higher. Awesome. So I think that's some things to look at for today. Is there? We are coming into the end of the week here, and then it'll be the last 2 weeks of the year. What are you thinking is going to happen? Is it going to get really quiet? Are their markets going to get thin as people head off for the holidays? I mean, what are you thinking there?
Well, what we typically see, I think the next 24 hours will be a lot of movement. If there's stimulus coming in, if there's Brexit coming in, there's a lot of deadlines that are happening in the next really 24 to kind of 48 hours here, right? I think there'll be fast and furious movement based off of those come out. If they don't come out going into Sunday, obviously the pound is going to take a major crash because it won't be done this year, and we'll be waiting for kind of where does it stop basically before some type of a trade agreement? Because eventually some trade agreement will happen. It's just whether or not it's going to be a hard exit, and then what does it look like after the fact? Stimulus is obviously another big one as well. The approval of vaccines is always good. So although it'll be lower volume, which typically happens at the end of December, all that means is less money is able to move the market, less buyers and sellers are able to move the market than a normal kind of just, September day, Yeah. So there's still violent swings that move around. Not a ton of economic news releases, but anything with new vaccines, new studies, stimulus, economic figures about how much people are spending online. All those things are big positives for the market. So I still think there'll be viable trade next week, Monday, Tuesday, and maybe even into Wednesday next week before it starts to slow.
All right, excellent. And just so everyone's aware, Brian and I are going to be doing these every morning through the holidays, just to give everyone just a glimpse into what's going on each day. So even if it might be quiet during the holidays, please feel free to join us every day. And who knows, sometimes great opportunity happens when there's fewer eyeballs on the market. You tend to get some volatility swings, and price action can actually really be
And
good.
there's kind of a new catalyst now as well between China and Australia. So there's a whole nother trade war heating up here, which again tends to help move things as well.
Yeah. So volatility can actually be a good thing. With that, if you have any questions for Nadex, please email us customerservice@nadex.com. Follow us on social media. I will point out, if you haven't registered for it today yet, we have our Nadex Day Trading Bootcamp, which starts at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central. If you haven't signed up for it, you can do so on the Nadex website. If you got any questions for Brian, support@keeptradingsimple.com. He is accessible, as is Jen.
She's here.
I love having our guest. So thank you for joining us today. We'll be back every morning. We will hopefully, if you can join us today for the next bootcamp, day trading bootcamp, wonderful. If not, we'll catch you tomorrow morning. And I want to wish everyone good luck in the markets.